Khan Shalom, all praises to Yahawah Bashim Yahawashi, Bashim Rakakadash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Greatmillstone, and salutations to the hopeful electors pushing his truth and sincerity. A WEF insider admits Silicon Valley bank crash is a great reset scam. And as we look around, we can see that everything is truly moving towards the Great Reset. You know, the re-establishment of the financial economic system. I'm gonna bring out just 3 verses, and then we're gonna jump into a video. This is in the book of Psalms, chapter 64, verse 8. So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. And this is an insider. This is a person that worked in the bank. He knows the ins and outs, and he is revealing what truly took place over them. The book of Luke, chapter 12, verse 2. For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. So many may think like the people are not aware of what is taking place, but more and more people are truly watching and looking around at what is taking place. There is no coincidence at the things that are taking place, the way how a bank collapses, the changes in the economic changes. All these things are no coincidence. You know, this is all planned. You know, and this man is going to speak. He's going to reveal about what is taking place, because these elites, these globalists, are truly trying to blind the people as they operate and steer towards the establishment of the digital new world order. You know, their digital one world government, so to say. In the book of Isaiah, chapter 25, verse 7, and he will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all people, and the veil that is spread over all the nations. Yeah, it's talking about the elites, the globalists that are ruling the earth today, blinding everybody. They're being exposed. So I'm going to play this clip. Lord willing, it's going to be edifying.
A World Economic Forum insider has been caught boasting that the Silicon Valley bank crash was an orchestrated plot that went perfectly to plan, and the crash will have a domino effect on the banking industry, leading to a global financial meltdown. It's been a crazy few days for the banking industry, specifically for Silicon Valley Bank and its shareholders, as it went from supposedly stable and solvent to closed down by the regulators in the space of just over 24 hours. And it appears the domino effect has begun already, with Signature Bank in New York closed by regulators citing systemic risk. Anyone who thinks the SV bank collapse was a coincidence has not been paying attention to the details. The hidden hands at work here have left their fingerprints all over this one. And when it comes to this amount of money, there are no coincidences. Meet Joseph Gentile, an executive at SV Bank. Do you know where Joseph Gentile worked before he was at Silicon Valley Bank? He was the chief financial officer at Lehman Brothers, which was the largest bank to crash in US history. That's one hell of a coincidence. But it gets even worse. Where do you think he worked before the Lehman Brothers? Do you remember a company named Enron? Enron was an energy company based in Houston, Texas, and a Wall Street darling in the 90s. Do you remember Enron getting shut down in late 2001? Enron was the biggest bankruptcy in US history and the biggest audit failure. The founder and CEO were sentenced to 24 years in prison. And it just so happens that Joseph Gentile was at the helm of all 3 companies before they went to the wall. And unlike his colleagues, he has never faced justice. The mainstream media want you to believe that this is just a coincidence, but there are no coincidences. Mainstream Twitter users are joking that Joseph Gentile is just really bad at his job, but they just don't get it. There are no coincidences, and Gentile is really good at his job. He and others like him are doing the bidding of the global elites, and they are being richly rewarded repeatedly, while ordinary people are being robbed blind. The drama in the banking sector and the collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank has a lot of Americans concerned about how to protect their money. The People's Voice has partnered with our friends at Goldco to help you get started in adding gold and silver to your portfolio to protect your savings from the globalist elite. Visit tpvlikesgold.com now. It's a smart play, trust me. Gold and silver has been a store of value for thousands of years, and they have always held their value. The US dollar lost 85% of its purchasing power since 1971, when the central banking cartel ripped all of us off by doing away with the gold standard. We chose Goldco because they are honest and reputable, rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau with thousands of 5-star reviews. And if you're quick, you can get up to $10,000 in free silver when you open an account. Visit tpvlikesgold.com now. What we are seeing is a push towards global government that's being camouflaged and cloaked in humanitarianism, multiculturalism, as well as manufactured threats, such as global warming and pandemics, in order to condition the population into accepting globalization and a one-world government. In order for this to occur, the global elite are planning to create a global financial crisis, the likes of which the world has never seen. Out of the ashes of this financial crisis will rise a phoenix of a new international economic order. The public will be told that this new order is the only way to stabilize the world economy and save what little remains of their wealth. And if we've learned anything from the manufactured crisis that was the COVID pandemic, the mainstream masses are likely to fall for the deception, hook, line, and sinker. It will be our job to educate the masses and stop this great deception from succeeding. Subscribe to The People's Voice and join our locals community. The link is under this video to help us spread the word about the agenda of the globalist elite. People often ask why the globalist elite would want to collapse the world economy. Wouldn't that mean they destroy their own wealth in the process? The answer is no. The elite have been consolidating their wealth in order to protect it for centuries. The process of consolidation has accelerated dramatically in recent years, with the global financial crisis in 2008 and the COVID pandemic, allowing the elite to get richer while the rest of us were made poorer. When the world financial system finally crashes, the elite will be positioned to buy what's left for pennies on the dollar. Where does that leave the rest of the world financially? The answer is in bondage to a techno-communist world governmental system led by the World Economic Forum in Davos and the hidden hands that control the public face of that cabal. If you pay attention, you can see that everything around you is being engineered towards this one goal. Over the past century, nation-states have been forced into massive debt by central banks to ensure that once this collapse begins, it will create a domino effect around the world. We are currently seeing a shift towards a cashless society through the help of blockchain technology that will facilitate a new reserve currency under the IMF and World Bank, known as the special drawing rights. The globalist elites are also forcing their vassal states to move towards centralizing currency in the form of a so-called central bank digital currency, or CBDC, which, by the way, is not a currency at all. It's software designed as a tool of total social control. It's easy to see why the CBDCs appeal to the far-left authoritarians in Davos. If they can cancel out your bank balance with a single keystroke, then you have no freedom and no autonomy. You are a slave to the system and completely beholden to the elite. And the elite are becoming so arrogant, they're even admitting to their plans, and the fact that it's really about total social control.
All our analysis on CBDC, in particular for the use of general use, we tend to establish the equivalence with cash, and there is a huge difference there. For example, in cash, we don't know, for example, who's using a $100 bill today. We don't know who is using a 1,000 peso bill today. A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. And also we will have the technology to enforce that. Those two issues are extremely important, and that makes a huge difference with respect to what cash is.
And in case you think this is a wild conspiracy theory and it could never happen here, you should be aware that the elite are quietly and deceitfully making moves to centralized currency right now in the United States without any public discussion. Governor Kirsty Noem of South Carolina caught them trying to change the definition of currency by burying it in the fine print of a 100-page bill. She joined Tucker Carlson last week to send a warning to all of us that we need to wake up to the agenda and fast.
Governor, thank you very much for doing this first and for coming on. Why did you do it? You're obviously under pressure not to veto it, but you did. Why did you?
Well, Tucker, it was the right thing to do. I became aware of this bill. It wasn't introduced until almost halfway through our legislative session. We started reading through this bill that was over 110 pages long. It was sold as an update to the guidelines of the Universal Commercial Code, backed by all of our financial institutions, our banks. As we started reading through it, we saw the section of the bill that changed the definition of currency. And essentially what it did was pave the way for a government-led CBDC, and it also banned any other form of cryptocurrency or Bitcoin or digital currency that existed. So for me, it very clearly was a threat to our freedom. In South Dakota, we are the session that completes its business earliest in the year. We are the first ones to really look at this bill and find out the truth of what's in it. And I did veto that bill. I'm asking my legislators to change their minds, to make the right decision and help me kill this bill once and for all. But I'm telling you, Tucker, we've got the same language coming to over 20 other states. I believe it's to pave a way for the federal government to control our currency and thus control people. It should be alarming to everyone, and it's being sold as a UCC guidelines update. There's no rush to do this. We need to be smart and make sure that we're doing what we can to protect people. I find it ironic that we also are having this discussion at the same time we have banks and credit card companies talking about coding gun and ammunition in a separate code so they can track it. So not only can they tie these two issues together, if the government doesn't approve of what you're purchasing, if they have the only form of digital currency out there and that is endorsed and utilized in the country, they can control how you spend that money and thus take away all your freedom.
As the world economy begins to collapse and the nation states begin printing trillions to try and keep their economies afloat, hyperinflation will take over. This in turn will force nations to turn to the World Bank for help, which will offer the CDR in return for control over these failing economies. The same way the Federal Reserve controls inflation and deflation through interest rates and by extension the US economy, so too will the IMF and World Bank gain control over the world economy, one crisis at a time. Exasperated by trade wars and currency wars, the exploding debt crisis will see personal savings evaporate overnight. If the globalist elite are allowed to carry out their plan, within the next few years most people will have lost their life savings. They will own nothing and they will be forced to pretend to be happy, because the elite will have total control over whatever paltry funds the public have been allocated by the techno-communist elite. Most of the world's major institutions were created with this goal in mind, from the United Nations to the International Monetary Fund, World Bank, to institutions like Cato, Balfour and Brookings Institute. This is not a future that we can allow to play out on our watch. Protect yourself and your savings by taking advantage of our special offer with Goldco by visiting tpvlikesgold.com. And join the People's Voice Locals community for exclusive uncensored content by following the link under this video. We are determined to continue broadcasting the news that the mainstream media is determined to suppress, but we can't do it without you. Regular viewers of this channel will know that we are interested in building the body as well as the mind, and that's where
So yeah, man, this is what I quickly wanted to bring out. Shalom.